Hello, we will go ahead and get started. I'm very excited for today for our special presenter. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Marcy Jo. Morford is Mealy. I work for Outreach as the office associate. And also, I'd like to introduce Marianne Barnett. She's our coordinator for transition services. So, hi, Marianne. All
Hello.
right, great. And then we have our two interpreters. We have Keith and we also have Mary. All right, so I want to introduce our special guest, Chris Woodfill. Now, Chris, I know you from WSD, so it's great to see you again. I'm very excited to have you here with us. So, would you like to say anything before we get started?
No, okay, I can get started.
Okay.
I am really excited to be here and to explain about my life and my life's work and my journey so far, and how you guys can do that as well. And as a team, you can journey just like I did.
Okay, great. So my first question for you today, Chris, is where did you grow up? Where did you go to school? And where do you live now? If you could share that kind of information with us.
Yes. So I was born in Racine, and I went to a mainstream school until about fourth grade. And in fifth grade, I transitioned to the Wisconsin School for the Deaf. And I stayed there until I graduated in 1993. So then, where I'm actually at today, I live in New York. And I work at the Helen Keller National Center, HKNC for short. And I work in the Long Island area. And so now I've been there 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
So previous to that, I did work in New York. I worked on Long Island teaching in 1999 to 2012. I actually taught at the Wisconsin School for the Deaf during that time from 1999 to 2012.
Okay, and so can you please explain to us more about your current position and even your job as a teacher? How does that apply to your work now and how are they related?
Sure. So now in my work, I am the Associate Executive Director. So of the Helen Keller National Center. And so I've been doing that for 6 years. Before that, I was 2 years working as a regional representative. And I represented New York, New Jersey, Puerto Rico, and yes, the Virgin Islands as well. So I worked in those areas. And working as an associate executive director, that's like vice president, a number two of a whole organization, a whole agency. There's the executive director and then myself. And so I have a bunch of people, lots of responsibilities underneath me. And I'm responsible for about, not exactly, but there are 13 to 14 $1 million budget that I have at my discretion to help facilitate for our programs, and I have about 100 employees that I am responsible for managing, and various programs, of course, all underneath that.
Mm-hmm.
And so Helen Keller National Center works with deaf-blind individuals, and so individuals who are deaf and blind can get resources and be a part of our programs. So again, working with a variety of programs that support deaf-blind individuals. There's a dorm. So I work with the director of a dorm. And also we have interpreters and SSP, which is support service providers. So I have several different projects with that. We have community services. So that's for the New York area. So those who are deaf and deafblind in the area can get services in their home. And so there are various programs that are part of the Helen Keller National Center, and I get to help manage those. So I'm responsible for those. It's a big job, but I do love it.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be stressful at times. There's a lot of responsibility. Of course, it's hiring. And another sad part of being a manager is sometimes you have to fire people as well. But of course, managing funds appropriately, making sure things are budgeted appropriately, programs are, if they need to get rid of something, they do. And then, again, being responsible for all those programs. So all of that does relate to my work. Again, from what I was working in before to now, it was quite a big jump. So when I worked as a teacher at the high school, at the Wisconsin School for the Deaf, from 1999 to 2012, so I'm a very ambitious person. We'll start with that. And so I'm very eager and looking for ways to advance in my career. So at the Wisconsin School for the Deaf, I had taken up as many opportunities as I could and become involved in what I could, different projects, different organizations, activities, and the like. One thing that I really loved and enjoyed at the Wisconsin School for the Deaf was a mock trial. And so I enjoyed all the work that went with that, and getting the student life club and to be involved in all those activities. And so that really helped not only in my work, but also the students that I worked with that mock trial. So that then, in organizing all of the programming for the mock trial, helped me in my work and being ambitious for what I was doing. And when I started working as a regional representative for Puerto Rico, New York, Long Island, and the Virgin Islands, that really helped me in my work. And so in that work, I had to help set up programs and services for deaf and deafblind. So in teaching and setting up programs and services, of course, that they're very different. Mm-hmm. But I did take the opportunity to challenge myself. It was something different. Again, moving, all that went with that from Wisconsin to New York. There was quite a lot of changes that needed to happen. When the executive director retired, actually, and, I saw that position and I thought, why not? Why not? Let's throw caution to the wind. Let's try it out. And so, again, the other assistive director had been also thinking about moving up. Of course, he had a lot more experience than I did, but they did take a look at my application and were considering what I could do and what I had offered and my ambition and my goals in life. And so the executive director, the assistant, actually moved up to the executive director, and I moved then to the assistant director position. And so they felt that I could learn and maybe replace the executive director when he retires. So again, when I applied for that position, I did have to show what I was capable of and show how I had set up different programs and how all the work that I had done in previous years, and also what I could do in balancing a budget and managing employees. Now, sometimes, you just have to take the chance and do it. And you never know what can happen. So I did, and, I didn't doubt myself at all. I just, I'll give this a try. And so I was able to move up, and that really helped me.
Wow, yeah, that is a big job and lots of responsibility in managing a budget and having people under you. And the fact that you just gave it a try and you weren't scared to fail, that's awesome that you just went for it, So my next question for you is the very first job that you ever had, what was it? And how does that relate to what you're doing now, or does it not relate at all?
Well, I have a good story about that. It's a good question, Marcy Jo. My first job, I worked at a bank in the town of Delavan. The bank has since changed hands many times, but I think at that time it was the Heritage Bank. Don't quote me on that. I don't remember if that's exactly the right name at that time. I think it was, it's currently where the M&I Bank is. At that time it wasn't M&I, it was at a different name at that time. But anyway, so I was working at the bank. And so I was in a work-study program from the Wisconsin School for the Deaf, and so I was ambitious and wanted to try something. I didn't want to just sit on my duff, and so I wanted to get some work experience, so I enrolled in working at the bank, and so I really enjoyed what I did there. So I was counting coins, rolling quarters, nickels, dimes, pennies, all that, rolling change, and then wrapping money, the bills, ones, tens, fives, etc., sorting all that. That was fun. Another part of that job was previously you used to be able to get the checks that you wrote sent back to you at the end of the month. And I remember having to sort those. One lesson I learned while I was there actually related to the job that I have now. It was, at the time, there was a lot of staff in town that lived in town that used that bank. And so when I was sorting checks, sometimes, you would see staff, there were checks, what they spent their money on. And so working there, I was able to see what they were buying. And so, of course, you had to learn to be confidential, to keep that private. That was private information. And so, at the end of the month, sort out the checks and send them the checks back. And so it was interesting, to see that world, if you will. I remember working $3.25 an hour. No. It was $3.15 an hour back in the day. Yeah.
Wow.
That wouldn't work now, of course. But yeah, I remember earning that.
Okay. So now you're working with a very large budget, but you definitely learned from that first job how to work with money and budgets and confidentiality, and that's carried over to your current job. So what are some of the strengths and weaknesses that you have, and what are some of the barriers? Or if you don't have any barriers, do you have full access at your job? How's your job now?
Yes. So it's so important to know your strengths and weaknesses. I mean, all people have them. So some of the strengths, I'm a go-getter. I'll just do it. I don't hold back. If I think I should try something, I go ahead and do it. If a program needs setting up, let's do it. If I fail, I try again. I have little to no fear of failure. So I tend to just do it. Yeah, I don't talk about things. I don't let things sit. I like to see things get done. I like things to do it. So if you need to do it, do it. Now, thinking about weaknesses, So I don't have it fully officially diagnosed, but I have ADHD. I have a short attention span. Of course, my job, it's great because, you're not able to really focus on one thing. You have all these departments and all these things that you're needing to keep track of, and it really fits my personality. But there are times when you need to focus on a project, and that is really hard for me. That's a negative part of that, yes. But, when you're focusing on a project and you really need to get things done, if you need to take breaks or something and come back to a project, that sometimes works, but some people are really skilled at just, hanging on to a project and just focusing on it for 4 or 5 hours at a time. I can't do that. So it has both its positive and negatives. You could consider it a strength and a weakness, both. So if someone had asked me, do you mind focusing on this project for, let's say, a couple weeks? If I was honest, I would say, it's not a good strategy for me. I wouldn't be able to do that. Focus fully. If I am able to work on other projects, then that would work. You need to manage your weaknesses and try to make them fit and make them work for you and to your success.
Yes, you definitely have to just keep your mind on it and keep going. And it sounds like you've really got those skills, and those are great skills to have. What about barriers at your current job? Do you have any barriers where you work now?
Oh, yes. Thank you. I forgot about that. So, in working with deaf-blind, with virtual work and virtual learning, it's been a journey. Not only with just communication, navigating that's definitely a barrier that we have to overcome. So being creative, finding creative ways to overcome that. Working with a support service provider, an SSP, or having considerations for social distancing when working with deafblind, wearing a mask, tactile, hand-over-hand considerations. Maybe some staff even wear goggles, and that's fine, but again, those are considerations that we have to work through. Using hand sanitizer, cleaning, using soap, all those things that come into play when you're working in close contact. And now with the added layer of the coronavirus, for sure, that has become another barrier. And we have to figure out ways to get around those. Now, for myself, a barrier that I've had has been two, really. One in my personal life, it's really thrown me a mark about for 3 months. I had my life partner passed away recently. It was just suddenly, and really has thrown me off. I've struggled with it, and it's a journey, and it's been 3 months now. Things have gotten better, but of course, it's still a struggle. Mm-hmm. That's my personal barrier that I've had, and I'm working through that. Another that I had was just, with virtual and having meetings, my eyes have gotten really tired. Your eyes, you get wore out just with Zoom meetings. Zoom has become really the norm. It's become so prevalent everywhere. And so my eyes get so tired by the end of the day. I'm sure, when you're taking in information, I have to take breaks. And so that's something that I have to be very considerate of when I'm thinking of how many meetings I can do, how long I can continue in a meeting.
Sure, I completely understand that. Trying to be on Zoom all day is really a challenge. And thinking about people who are deafblind, I'm sure that's a huge struggle for them.
Yes.
I can't wait for things to get back to normal.
Hopefully.
All right. So did you go to college? Did you have any kind of training or any kind of trainings that your new job that you currently have required?
Yes. So at the Helen Keller National Center, it's really a rehabilitation organization, rehabilitation center. And so there are so many different kinds of rehabilitation services going on. And so having training in that, for sure, is helpful. Independent living skills, learning Braille, tactile, signing, all of those skills come into play in working here. Most of the job at this agency does require a degree, most of these positions. But one or two people who've been able to move up, they don't have a college degree, and they've been still able to advance. One of the interpreters in the department, they've been able to move up, and they just have a high school degree. Now, I have a master's degree, and so in working with someone who's overseeing a department without a degree, sometimes that can prove at a point where we need to work things out. But again, anyone in administration will have a degree, and so getting a degree develops discipline. College is not easy. You really have to discipline yourself to get through to graduation. That's where management really need to have those skills, have that discipline. Being able to manage your time, manage your stress levels, dealing with deadlines, having things that are due at a certain time, keeping track of all those things. In college, that really prepares you for management. Taking college classes, the same in administration, keeping a handle, all of that. There are a lot of parallels. It's so important to go, again, regardless of the degree. Some of the managers and the assistants I'm working with, they don't have a degree related to rehabilitation at all. Their degrees vary. Some are related to rehabilitation, some are related to education, some philosophy, some history, some political, some, even Spanish. And so the focus then is the degree. Of course, yes, obtaining the degree, going through the steps to graduate, and following through and developing self-discipline.
Sounds good. So you live in New York now. From what I understand, it's very expensive to live in New York.
Yes.
So do you only have the one job, or do you feel like you have to have a second job to survive? Can you tell us a little more about that?
Okay. Yes. It's interesting that you would ask me that. It's something that's been on my mind lately, actually. When I lived in Wisconsin as a teacher, I earned $50,000 or so, and I was able to comfortably survive in Wisconsin, and so that the economy there. When I moved to New York here, a little bit more than double that, actually, and so it's over 100,000. And so I'm still needing to budget here and to be very mindful of where I spend my money. And some people I meet, they're like, "Oh, you have over 100,000. You're earning that. You should be sitting pretty." That's not the case here. The standard of living is much higher here than Wisconsin. And so the disparity between what I need to survive here in New York, that's manageable, what I'm making. And so even it's interesting to compare that, what I was able to earn and survive with in Wisconsin versus what I'm able to have here in New York. I enjoy my work. I love it. I love my job. So it's a good trade-off, I feel. Some of the things that I gave up in Wisconsin to be here, but I really like New York, being able to get around, the public transportation that's available to me. I can get anywhere I need to, anytime, anywhere that I want to. In Wisconsin, I really had to depend on people. If they could give me a ride, if I could join with them, it was much more of a hassle. Here, it's just so much easier. So let's say in New York, if I wanted to go I don't have to do that. I don't have to depend on my friends to take me places or figure out a way to get somewhere. I just go. I love it. I love my life here. Of course, there's positives and negatives to every decision. You know, we have to figure out what's important and what's not.
Yeah. So obviously you love your job and you enjoy it. And, you know, sometimes as long as you can live independently, the money doesn't matter. So that's awesome. All right. Well, we have just a few minutes left. So I want to close with if you could give any advice to the students who are watching now who are deaf, hard of hearing, or deafblind, what kind of advice would you give?
Yes. So far, I've worked full-time for over 21 years. Really, 24 years, but 3 years teaching at Gallaudet University. Then 13 years at the Wisconsin School for the Deaf as a teacher, and then 8 years now at the Helen Keller National Center. So of those 3 positions, I loved all of them. I really did. You do what you love. Mm-hmm. That's really the key. Life's not worth putting up with a job. You have to love it. Look for something. If you don't love it, look for something else. Look for something you enjoy, something that makes you happy. So when I worked for 3 years at Gallaudet University, worked with students from other countries. And so those students coming into the university system from other countries would need some remediation to help them gain enough English skills to be able to fully function in classrooms. And so I learned so much of so many different cultures, different norms, their stories. I really enjoyed that. It was a very, very good opportunity of cultural sharing and learning on both ends for them and myself. I enjoyed so much learning about the world we live in. And then working at the Wisconsin School for the Deaf, I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed that place. I enjoyed my work there. It was so hard for me to leave. It was not an easy decision. I loved it. I loved my job there. I do remember working with some of you at my time at the Wisconsin School for the Deaf. So it was good. It's good to see all of you, and I remember having good memories with that. Now, Helen Keller National Center, I'm motivated, and I live a good life. And so it's so important to follow that in your own life. You know, it's not about money. When at the end of your life, when you're contemplating the end, are you considering like, oh, I should have earned more money? No, you're going to be thinking of the experiences you've had.
Right.
Did you lead a good life? What did you do? It's not going to be about money.
Right.
It's not.
That's so true.
So put that aside. Do you enjoy your work? And then that's a good life. That's my advice to someone considering careers. Do what you love, do what you enjoy.
Well, thank you so very much for sharing your experiences with us today and all the stories that you shared, Chris. We're so glad that you could join us today. Thank you.